It looks like the M181 will be shortened once again in the not-too-distant future. The not-too-distant future is now. I'm in Lincolnshire, and this is what's left of the M181 motorway, now roughly 3/4 of a mile in length, but at least it's got a nice trumpet interchange. It opened in 1978, and everything was fine, but then the local council decided to start messing around with it in 2020. It was decided to redevelop the land around the M181 by way of adding several thousand houses and new industries and shops, etc. Sure, the allocated land is a floodplain for the River Trent, but who cares about that when you can spend £14 million on some flood defences? Yes, you could find some land that doesn't require such infrastructure, but what's the point? When it comes to the M181, this would become the main road that provides the majority of access to the proposed new housing, but with it being a motorway and all, meant some changes would need to be made. Now, if it were me, I'd be building some new junctions. Nothing too crazy, but some grade separated junctions would suit this small stretch of motorway rather nicely, I think. But what do I know, because the decision they made was to bang in a roundabout, right in the middle of the carriageway. The first of these abominations was completed a few years ago, and with the M181 now split into two sections, the northern section was renumbered as the A1077M, which at first glance makes no sense at all, but it'll make a bit more sense later on. What doesn't make sense is that since this roundabout's installation, the accident rate has increased, sadly some of which have been fatal. However, that's nothing to do with the roundabout, it's their fault for dying, but with that in mind, maybe you'd think twice before building another roundabout. And here it is, the second new roundabout, which opened pretty much today. I couldn't find an official opening date. I presume that's because their guess was as good as anyone else's, but we've now got this wonderful tarmac circle of delight, which further shortens the M181. And like before, the newly created section has been renumbered as the A1077M, which interestingly means that the A1077M is now longer than the M181, despite being made of the M181. The original plan for this new roundabout shows there to be some additional roads and roundabouts connecting it up to Burringham Road, but you may have already noticed they don't exist. I don't know why, it was part of the plan, but all they've managed to achieve is the addition of the roundabout, which some might say is a waste of time and effort. However, either way, they will be needed for the huge redevelopment going on in the area. How's that looking, by the way? Not very good. When I last visited the M181, it looks like this, and today it looks like this. I can't see any signs of a large housing estate being built or whatever, and we're getting on a bit here, guys. The plans were first announced in 2014. Here we are 11 years later, and we've managed to build two roundabouts which do nothing but increase accident statistics. What's the hold-up? I don't have an exact answer for that, but what I can tell you is that the organisation that bought the land for redevelopment went into liquidation a couple of years ago, so something is amiss, but the result is that planning applications have to be made all over again, and it's turned into a complete shit show, and I don't think anyone really knows what's going on. As for the motorway, the future plans for that are a little more clear. Eventually, what is currently the A1077M will be downgraded in name only to become the A1077, and what is currently the M181 will either remain as the M181 and be a rather short motorway, or perhaps more likely it will be stripped of the M181 number and become nothing more than a little odd spur and part of the M180, which is exactly what it was before, but at least it had its own number. I imagine the local council would like to get all of this sorted sooner rather than later, but there's a 6,000 house size problem. Until they sort out actually building some stuff, there's no point in going to the hassle of changing all of the road regulations. It's a lot of paperwork, so what was originally the M181 is now two different motorways with two roundabouts until they get around to sorting it all out, which is currently estimated to be never. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.